Let's not waste time sugarcoating this. Your sin, it's big. Yeah, it's ugly, it's loud, and it's following you like a shadow at midnight. But guess what? God's mercy is bigger. You hear me? I'm not saying that to make you feel better. I'm saying that because He already wrote the check before you overdrafted your soul. You think you're the exception. You think you've gone too far. Nah, you're not that powerful. Your worst decision. God saw it before it ever happened, and you know what He did. He showed up anyway. Let me say it plain. Mercy doesn't wait for you to clean up. Mercy walks into the mess and says, I'm not leaving. You think you're disqualified. Good, that's when grace does its best work. God doesn't build His kingdom with perfect resumes, He builds with broken hearts. Sin might scream, but mercy doesn't need to shout because when it speaks, hell goes silent. You carry shame like it's your name tag. Rip it off. You are not your lowest moment. You are not your worst day. You are not the addiction, the betrayal, the secret, or the scar. You are loved fully, freely, finally. Because God doesn't do half measures. He doesn't say maybe. He says, it is finished. You hear that. That means paid, done, covered, mercy won. So yeah, your sin is big, but mercy didn't flinch. Now get up. Don't stay in the dirt when heaven's already opened the door. Mercy's waiting, but it ain't gonna drag you. You gotta move. Because if you're breathing, He's still writing. And He never ends stories on failure. Sin is real, and it's heavy. That's the part we don't like talking about. Nobody wakes up wanting to admit they're a mess. Nobody wants to face that shadow in the mirror that keeps whispering, you blew it. But here's the raw, uncomfortable truth. We've all got it. Sin is the thing we keep hidden behind smiles and filters. It's the weight that sits on your chest at 3 a.m. when the noise stops and all that's left is the echo of what you did, what you said, who you hurt, or who you've become. And let's be real, sin isn't just mistakes or oops-a moments. It's deeper. It's that part of us that knows better and still chooses the dark. It's when you know what's right, but wrong feels easier. It's rebellion dressed up as freedom. It's pride pretending to be strength. It's lust pretending to be love. It's addiction pretending to be comfort. It's the fake peace that always ends in chaos. You can try to bury it, numb it, drink it down, smoke it out, scroll past it, but it doesn't leave. Sin's not just a bad decision. It's a chain, a leash, a trap. It'll let you dance for a while, make you think you're in control, but eventually it'll choke you. It starts small, a thought, a compromise, a lie. But then it grows, and suddenly you're in deeper than you ever planned to be, wondering how you ended up here. And let's not act like it only hurts us. Sin spills. It leaks into people around us. It burns bridges, breaks trust, wounds hearts. You think you're hiding it, managing it, but it's already doing damage. That secret, that habit, that pattern, it's poisoning the water you and everyone else are drinking. Sin is not a game. It's not harmless. It's not cute. It's not just something to work on. It's a disease. It's cancer in the soul. And if you keep feeding it, it won't just rue in your day, it'll wreck your future. That's the part people don't preach enough. We talk about grace, and we should. But grace doesn't make sin less deadly. It just makes healing possible. And some of you know this already, because you've lived it. You've watched relationships blow up. You've lost nights you can't remember. You've buried guilt so deep you don't feel anything anymore. You've gotten good at pretending, smiling, performing, but underneath, you're exhausted. You're bleeding spiritually. And the scariest part, you think it's normal. This is why we need to talk about it. Because if you don't face the weight of sin, you'll never understand the power of mercy. If you don't feel the ache, you'll never want the cure. See, people want healing but skip the part where they admit they're sick. But real freedom doesn't come from ignoring sin. It comes from calling it what it is and laying it down. Sin is real. It's weighty. It doesn't care how strong you are. It doesn't care how many verses you can quote. It doesn't care if you go to church every Sunday or raised your hands during worship. It'll crawl right past all of that if your heart's not surrendered. It doesn't flinch at religion, it laughs at it, but it runs from repentance. That's the key. Not perfection, not performance, repentance. And look, don't misunderstand this. This ain't a beatdown. This is a wake-up call. This is love showing up and saying, you're better than this. There's more for you than this. But you can't keep pretending it's fine. Conviction is not condemnation. It's the light turning on in a dark room, showing you there's a way out. So yeah, sin is heavy, real heavy, but you're not built to carry it. That's why it's crushing you. You weren't made to drag that weight your whole life. You were made to walk free. But the first step to freedom is facing the truth. The sin is big. The damage is real, but that's not the end. Not even close. You can't out sin God's love. Read that again. Say it out loud if you have to. Let it cut through the guilt, through the shame, through the years of running, hiding, pretending. You cannot out sin God's love. Some of you think you've gone too far. Like there's a point where God throws up his hands and says, that's it, I'm done with you. You think there's a limit. You think grace has a breaking point. You think God's love has a fine print clause that says, only if you don't screw up too bad. That's a lie. That's religion talking, not God. That's shame talking, not mercy. That's the enemy talking, not the Savior. Because if God's love had a limit, none of us would have made it past day one. If grace had a finish line, we'd all be stuck in chains, but it doesn't, and we're not. Look at the story of the cross. Jesus didn't come for people who had it all together. He came for the broken, the angry, the messed up, the addicted, the liars, the cheaters, the arrogant, the bitter, the forgotten, the ones who think they're too far gone. You know why? Because they're the ones who actually need him. You think your sin disqualifies you from his love. Newsflash, it qualifies you for his mercy. The whole reason Jesus went to the cross was because you couldn't fix yourself. You couldn't clean yourself up. You couldn't undo what's been done, but he could, and he did. See, love doesn't flinch when things get ugly. Love doesn't walk away when the mess shows up. Real love steps in, rolls up its sleeves, and says, I'm not leaving. That's what God's love does. It stays, it covers, it fights, it restores. You ever mess up so bad you can't even look yourself in the mirror? Been there. You ever try to pray, and all you hear is silence because you feel like God left? Done that. You ever show up to church and feel like everyone else is glowing while you're just trying not to break down? Welcome to the club. But here's the truth. Your feelings don't change his love. Your failure doesn't cancel his faithfulness. God isn't shocked by your sin. He saw it coming before you were born, and he still chose the cross. He still chose the nails. He still chose you, not the polished version of you. Not the social media version of you, not the church dressed I know what to say version of you. He chose the real you, the one with the scars, the secrets, the screw-ups. And hear this, nothing you've done makes you unlovable. Nothing, not the abortion, not the affair, not the addiction, not the betrayal, not the lies, not the things you said, not the nights you regret, not the people you hurt. Nothing separates you from the love of God unless you choose to believe it can. It's not that God ever walks away from us. It's that we run and assume he won't follow. But he does. Every time. He's not afraid of your darkness. He's not offended by your wounds. He's not waiting for you to get it all together before he wraps his arms around you. He's right there, right now, saying, I still love you, come home. The truth is, if sin was stronger than God's love, the cross would be a joke. But it wasn't, and it isn't. The cross was enough. His blood was enough. His love is still enough. It doesn't matter if it's been 5 days, 5 years, or 5 decades. It doesn't matter if you fell last night or this morning. Mercy is still open. Grace is still flowing. Love is still undefeated. So stop thinking you're too far. You're not. You're never too far for God to reach. never too lost for him to find, never too broken for him to rebuild, never too dirty for him to wash clean. Your sin might be loud, but his love roars louder. You can't sin a God who already took it all and nailed it to a cross. You don't have to earn your way back. You just have to come back, because love already made a way. Mercy was never earned, it's given. That's the game changer right there. That's what flips the whole script. Because if mercy had to be earned, we'd all be done for. If God handed out mercy based on performance, based on who prayed the most or sinned the least, then heaven would be empty. Because not one of us could make the cut. Not one of us is clean enough, holy enough, strong enough to earn something that pure. Mercy doesn't come wrapped in a reward system. It's not something you unlock at level 10 after being good enough. This isn't school. This isn't a job. You don't work for God's mercy like it's a paycheck. It's not a promotion. It's a gift. Straight up, unearned, undeserved, unexplainable. That's what makes it mercy. It comes when you've blown it. It shows up when you've got nothing to offer. Mercy isn't a gold medal, it's a lifeline. You don't receive it standing tall with your chest out. You receive it face down, broken, empty, desperate, and that's the beauty. That's the power, because mercy doesn't show up because of who you are. It shows up because of who He is. You ever notice how quick we are to try and bargain with God? We mess up, and then suddenly we're like, okay, God, I'll do better. I'll pray more. I'll give more. I'll clean up. Just don't leave me. Just fix it. Like somehow, if we stack up enough good, it'll erase the bad. But mercy doesn't work like that. God doesn't negotiate when He already paid the price. You can't buy your way into forgiveness. You can't hustle your way into grace. All you can do is surrender, drop the act, drop the mask, drop the pressure to be perfect, because mercy comes to the ones who know they need it, not the ones pretending they don't. And don't get it twisted, mercy isn't weakness, mercy is fierce. Mercy says, yeah, you messed up, but I'm not giving up on you. It looks sin dead in the face and says, you don't get the final word. That's what Jesus did over and over again. He sat with the sinners, the outcasts, the broken ones, and He gave them mercy before they ever proved themselves. The woman caught in adultery, mercy. The thief on the cross, mercy. Peter denying Jesus 3 times, mercy. Paul, who literally murdered Christians, mercy. You know what all of them had in common. They didn't earn it. They couldn't, and neither can you, but they got it, because mercy isn't about merit. It's about love, a kind of love so deep it offends logic. It offends religion. It offends pride, because it gives to the ones who don't deserve it, and it gives freely. If mercy had a price tag, it wouldn't be mercy. If it came with conditions, it wouldn't be grace. If it depended on you being good enough, it wouldn't be Jesus. It'd just be another man-made system. But the gospel is clear. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Not after we repented, not after we figured it out, while right in the middle of our dirt. That's the kind of mercy we're talking about. And maybe you're reading this thinking, okay, but what if I already burned every bridge? What if I've blown my last chance? Listen closely, mercy doesn't run out, it doesn't dry up. It's not based on your track record, it's based on God's character, and His character doesn't change. You might be out of options, you might be out of strength, but you're not out of reach, because mercy is not something you have to chase. It chases you, and when it finds you, it doesn't ask for receipts. It just covers you, washes you, restores you. You don't need to climb a ladder. You don't need to make a speech. All you need to do is open your hands and receive what's already been given. Mercy doesn't come when you finally get it right. It comes when you admit you can't. So stop trying to earn what's already yours. Stop trying to clean yourself up before you come home. God's not waiting for you to impress Him. He's waiting for you to trust Him. And the second you do, mercy floods in like a tidal wave. You don't earn it. You just receive it. That's mercy. Shame is a liar. Mercy speaks louder. That's the battle most people never talk about out loud. You can walk around smiling, dressed up, doing all the right things on the outside, and still be chained up inside by shame. It's sneaky. It doesn't show up with sirens and warning signs. It whispers, it creeps. It haunts you with flashbacks of what you did, who you were, where you fell. It doesn't just remind you of the sin, it tries to convince you that you are the sin. Shame doesn't just say, you messed up. It says, you are a mess. It attaches your identity to your failure. That's the voice that plays on repeat in your head, you're not good enough. You're dirty, you're broken, you're unworthy, you'll never change, you'll never be free. That's not conviction. That's shame, and shame is a straight-up liar. Conviction comes from God, it points you toward hope. But shame is from the pit. It drags you down and then dares you to hope again. It builds walls between you and God, you and people, you and your own healing. It isolates you, makes you hide, makes you pretend. It makes you think, if people really knew me, they'd leave. And worse, if God really knew me, he wouldn't want me. But let's stop right there because God already knows. He's not shocked. He's not turning away in disgust. You think you've got secrets. He saw it all. The hidden sin, the late nights, the ugly words, the guilt, the shame, all of it. And he's still saying, come to me. That's not shame talking. That's mercy. And mercy speaks louder. Mercy doesn't ignore your sin. It confronts it with love. It doesn't pretend the past didn't happen. It just refuses to let the past define your future. Mercy sees the worst of you and says, I still choose you. That's power, that's redemption. That's what shame can't understand. Shame chains you to the person you were. Mercy reminds you of the person God's calling you to be. Shame keeps digging up the grave. Mercy rolls the stone away. Shame says, stay down. Mercy says, get up, you're not done yet. Shame calls you by your sin. Mercy calls you by your name. Some of you have been carrying shame for years, decades even. Stuff nobody knows about. Stuff you swore you'd take to the grave, and it's killing you slowly. It's eating at your soul. You've learned to live with it like it's normal. But it's not. You weren't meant to live like that. You weren't built to carry that weight. That's why Jesus carried it to the cross. The cross wasn't just about forgiveness, it was about freedom. It was about lifting off the shame that's been suffocating you. When Jesus said, it is finished, he didn't just mean your punishment, he meant your shame, that voice in your head that won't shut up, he silenced it. That guilt you can't shake, he washed it. That identity you took on, the one shaped by failure and regret. He replaced it with something new. You are not the affair. You are not the addiction. You are not the abortion, the betrayal, the brokenness. You are not the things that happened to you. You are not the worst thing you've ever done. You are not the secret you're scared to confess. You are not the label the world put on you. You are redeemed. You are forgiven. You are seen. You are chosen. And yeah, shame is gonna try and scream that down every single day. But that's why you have to remind yourself, mercy speaks louder. You've got to drown out the lies with the truth, not just once, every day, every moment the past comes knocking, you answer with grace. When shame says, God's done with you, you say, mercy already made a way. When shame says, you don't belong here, you say, I'm not here because I earned it, I'm here because I'm loved. This is what God does. He takes what shame tried to use to destroy you and turns it into testimony. He doesn't juice and save you from the pit, he uses it to lift others out too. What the enemy tried to bury you with, God's gonna build with it. So don't believe the liar, don't let shame win. It had its moment, but mercy is forever. The cross was loud enough to silence every accusation, and once God has spoken mercy over you, no lie can undo it. There's something wild that happens when you stop running and actually surrender, not fake surrender, not churchy performance, not that I'll try harder, talk real surrender, the kind that drops the excuses, the kind that's ugly and raw and messy, the kind where you finally throw your hands up and say, God, I can't do this, I've tried, I've failed, I'm done pretending, I need you. That's the moment heaven doesn't ignore. That's the moment mercy breaks in and takes over. Your past is part of the story, not the end of it. This is something a lot of people struggle to believe, especially when the weight of their history feels like it's dragging them down every single day. The mistakes, the regrets, the failures, they can seem like chains that lock you into a permanent identity, an unchangeable label that defines who you are. But here's the truth you need to hear right now. Your past doesn't get to write the final chapter of your life. It's just a part of the journey, not the destination. The world loves to trap us in our past. It loves to point fingers and say, "Remember what you did. You're that person forever." And sometimes we do that to ourselves even worse. We replay the worst moments on a loop in our minds, convinced we're stuck there. The pain becomes comfortable because it's familiar, but pain isn't your home. It's just a chapter, not the whole book. God sees things differently. He looks at your past, all the mess, the brokenness, the shame, and He doesn't turn away. He doesn't dismiss it or minimize it, but He doesn't let it define you either. Instead, He takes it and says, "This is the place where redemption happens." The Bible is full of people whose pasts were far from perfect. People like David, who was a murderer and adulterer, Peter, who denied Jesus 3 times, Paul, who persecuted Christians mercilessly. Their pasts were messy, ugly even. But their stories didn't end there. They found mercy, grace, and transformation, and their lives became powerful testimonies of God's redemptive power. Your story can be like that too. The mistakes you've made, the sins you're ashamed of, the bridges you burned, they are not the end. They don't have the last word. They don't determine your future unless you let them. God specializes in new beginnings. He takes broken things and makes them whole. He takes scarred hearts and fills them with hope. That's the power of His mercy. It rewrites the narrative. Now, this doesn't mean you forget the past or pretend it didn't happen. That's not how healing works. Healing comes when you face the truth, look it straight in the eye, and let God's mercy flood in. It comes when you stop hiding and start owning your story. Because only when you're honest about your past can you fully receive the freedom God offers. Trying to run from it only drags it behind you, slowing you down and stealing your peace. And here's something else. Your past might be a tool for God's purpose. That pain, those mistakes, they can become a source of strength, a way to help others who are walking through the same darkness. When you've been there, you know what it feels like. When you've fallen, you know how to help someone get up. Your story, messy as it is, can inspire hope in others. It can be a light in the darkness. But that only happens when you stop defining yourself by what you did and start defining yourself by who God says you are. Because your identity isn't in your past failures or sins, it's in God's grace. He sees you as His child, redeemed and loved beyond measure. He sees you as a new creation, not because you're perfect, but because His mercy covers your imperfections. So don't let your past intimidate you or hold you hostage. It's part of the story, yes, but it's not the whole story. The best chapters are still ahead. The pen is in your hands, but more importantly, it's in God's hands. He's ready to write a new ending, a story of redemption, hope, and unstoppable love. The question is, will you let Him? Will you let go of the shame, the guilt, the fear, and step into the mercy that says, you are more than your past? Because that mercy is bigger than anything you've done or been through. It's bigger than the mistakes, the secrets, the regrets. Your past may be a part of your story, but it's not the end, not by a long shot.